Hello everybody and welcome back. I am KRX and we're going to be doing a tutorial for Europa Universalis 4 for complete beginners. So you've just picked up the game, maybe you have that subscription service, you got all the DLCs. We are going to be doing this one with all DLCs. If you do not have a chunk of the DLCs, like a chunk of the main DLCs or all the DLCs or whatever, we do have tutorials with France that is completely up to date, and Portugal and Muscovy, which are slightly out of date, but this is going to be fully up to date for 2021 with the Leviathan update. Southeast Asia update, North America update, the free update that came out in the Leviathan DLC. We do have the Leviathan DLC activated right now, as well as all the other DLCs. And we're going to be trying to build up an understanding of Europa Universalis 4 from the ground up, thematically looking at the game and understanding it mechanically, but also immersively too, and allowing that to drive our decisions and understand how to resolve conflicts and progress in the game and tell a story, right? And enjoy that unique experience. So instead of just teaching you how to play a certain nation, I'm going to try to teach you how to play the game, and then you can apply what we learn and talk about to any nation. The process of playing a nation is the same with every nation, but because of the distinct differences geographically and just internal situations and external situations of every country, playing the different nations does feel radically different from a fun variety standpoint, but the process is the same. And we've made tutorials now, including ones for all DLC up until Leviathan. They're going to be slightly out of date at this point, but those would include Castile and Ottomans, and England with some DLC, Castile and Ottomans with all the DLC as of a year ago, Portugal and Muscovy and France with no DLC. Those are all perfectly valid. We're looking for another country to play as, and we could pick as any country in the world. You could pick any country in the world, although there is going to be a much more limited scope if you're looking for countries to have a chance of success as a new player. So we are just looking for someone that we can find success with without really knowing what the heck we're doing. And to be fair, we've exhausted a lot of good options. Portugal's a great option. Muscovy's a great option. Ottomans are a great option. Those are countries we've already made tutorials for. So if you're interested in any of those perspectives, then there you go. But I wanted to do one for sure that was a little bit more centered around the HRE. And I've kind of been torn between Milan, Switzerland, and Brandenburg. These are beefier countries. They're more powerful countries compared to their neighbors. So they're a little bit more juiced up than some of the others. They're not the most important players in town like Bohemia and Austria. Austria being one of the most important members of the Holy Roman Empire. At the top here we can filter for the Holy Roman Empire to see which of those nations are actually included. Milan's kind of special in the sense it is part of the Holy Roman Empire at the start of the game, but it's part of Italy as well, so there's a little bit of a historical aspect to being in Italy that will change things up a bit. Brandenburg is kind of the number 2. Austria is sort of the number 1. Brandenburg's kind of the number 2, also destined to form Prussia and Germany and so on and so forth. Their capital of Brandenburg is Berlin. Lots of history here. A very powerful nation, but not literally responsible for the entire wellness and sanctity of the Holy Roman Empire. That's Austria's job. So we have way less responsibility, but we still have a lot of power compared to many of these other tiny countries in the area. So I think, like, you know, this is, again, not strictly the most beginner-friendly nation. It's important to note. And again, we're not going to pick Austria because Austria, again, too much responsibility, too many mechanisms and systems and things the game wants us to already understand in order to do well as Austria. Austria has a lot of responsibility. Brandenburg has less responsibility and is still powerful enough to not just get completely steamrolled by our neighbors. So Brandenburg, I think, is going to be a good classic nation to play in the HRE and also for beginners. We're going to hit play. We're going to click on Brandenburg. Brandenburg selected up here. Hit play. Making sure that we're on the year 1444. We don't really want to adjust these times. You want to start at 1444. This is a game with literally like 500 or 600 nations that we could pick at the beginning. We could pick anyone anywhere in the world. We could play in South America or in Africa or in Southeast Asia, which is actually where a lot of the new DLC has focused on making changes and stuff as well. Although we'll see some new stuff even playing as Brandenburg with the new Leviathan DLC. But it's important to know this game is a real-time strategy game that takes place over 400 years of alternate history. And it is really very much balanced to be started in 1444. So we're going to start in 1444, and we're going to slowly play through 400 years of history. Although we're not going to do that in this series because it takes like 100 hours to play a campaign in this game. we're just going to play for a bit, get a good feel of it, learn a lot of the systems and mechanisms, and hopefully, hopefully that won't take too long. And really, you play the country as long as you want, as long as you're having fun. As soon as you kind of feel like, okay, I've succeeded, I've accomplished my goals, then you can move on. You move on to another country. Hundreds of different countries to play, all very asymmetrical. In terms of France is clearly going to be a very different experience to Brandenburg. I mean, different positions, different neighbors, different diplomatic opportunities, different aggressive opportunities, totally different situation. There we go. We have hit play. We haven't done anything. We've seen some icons all popping up on screen. I'm just going to mention these really quick. These are standing armies. These are the armies of our neighbors. We have 9,000 troops sitting in Berlin, and we have 5,000 troops here in Magdeburg. And Anhalt has 4,000 troops, 6,000 in Brunswick, so on and so forth. We could go around. And some of these nations are lucky enough to have navies even. So they have docked ships here in port. And when we unpause the game, those ships will start protecting trade and doing other things and patrolling the waters and stuff. And we are paused right now. So it's important to note that we are paused. This is a real-time strategy game with pause. So you can pause whenever you want to make decisions or evaluate things or think about what you're going to be doing and so on and so forth. But right now we are paused, and we're going to keep that pause. Spacebar to pause and unpause, but we're going to keep that pause for a while we go through and try to figure out what the heck is going on. Like, what do we even do? Like, why would we unpause? What would we be trying to achieve? What is our goals, So we're going to try to go slow here. And we are Brandenburg again, and it's important to think about that. We are the ruler, the king of Brandenburg, presumably. Or, we can actually check here really quickly. Okay, Prince Elector. Frederick II. That's who we are right now. And essentially, we are in charge of this. We're responsible for the wellness of this country and its future prosperity and stuff. We might want to expand to a larger, if we're going to form Prussia, right, we might need to get a bit bigger. If we're going to form Germany, we certainly need to take more of this land, right, to unify Germany together. That might be one of our goals as well. So there's a number of different things that we could think of as our goals or motivations for attacking our neighbors and things. But if we're going to be getting into conflict and heck, maybe being attacked, I mean, heck, we're rubbing up against Poland right here. Holy cow. We are literally rubbing up against Poland. I see Brandenburg right here, and I see Poland right here. Poland looks like a big country right there. Bohemia looks like a pretty large country too, to our south, kind of sticking up there and touching us as well. So the question is, we might actually want some alliances as well. This game has a massive diplomatic system, which includes aggressive actions like going to war and embargoing nations and all kinds of things like that. But it also has positive interactions for building up cooperative interactions with other nations, like alliances or royal marriages and things like that. But for the most part, we could really just start clicking on things. Other countries, right? Like we can click on Bohemia here. I'm going to exit out of this building tab right here just so it cleans up the menu a little bit. That's just this little tab right here. Totally unimportant right now. And I'm not reading any of this stuff. I mean, there's icons all over the screen. There's tabs over here. There's buttons down here in the bottom right. I'm not looking at any of this. I'm just looking at the front of the screen. I see our country here, and I can kind of see a border here. And I can see our color, our brown, burgundy brown, or Brandenburg brown, sorry. We can click on Bohemia, and we can see this is the only thing I'm looking at in this giant screen with all this overwhelming information. The only thing I'm looking at is just by clicking any of Bohemia's provinces is this little window right here where it shows their crest, and it shows they have 22 positive opinion of us. This is a scale from -200 to +200. So 22 is really not that high, but it's definitely not negative, right? It is definitely a favorable opinion of us, although their actual attitude is neutral. And a neutral country isn't really that enthusiastic. A neutral country doesn't necessarily think, hey, let's get an alliance. No, they're just neutral. They're like, whatever, So we can look for other people that are maybe more pleased than that. Oh, look, Saxony. Saxony loves us. They got a big giant green heart right here. +29. Looks like they actually have something going on here. They have a junior partner. They actually have a personal union over this nation here. So Saxony is actually a little bit bigger and thicker than it looks. They control this country here as a puppet nation, and then they also control the mainland here. Not as big as Bohemia, but still maybe a decent ally, Saxony. Click on other countries. Glogo. They're kind of a neutral attitude. Poland's neutral. Now, neutral doesn't mean they won't get an alliance. It just means that they're not like jonesing for an alliance, right? We could still work on Poland. If we say, hey, let's actually ally Poland instead of having them potentially go aggressive towards us, let's actually proactively try to ally them. We have diplomats. And these diplomats in the top right here, we have 2 free diplomats. We can use these. If I click on this diplomacy tab, and I open up these tabs here, which are all the different diplomatic options. Tons and tons and tons of diplomatic options. Just an immense amount of diplomatic options here. But there's one here called Improve Relations in the Relationships Actions. Relations Actions. Improve Relations. This will essentially increase that number. That 23 will go up. It will become a 50, and then a 75, and then 100, and so on and so forth. And over months and months and months, and maybe even years and years and years of improving relations with Poland, they will eventually have a much higher number here, and their attitude might change to friendly, or they might just be willing to ally us regardless. Right now, they would not be willing to ally us. Offer alliance, that is a no. That is a big red X there. We could technically ask them anyways, but the game's already telling us that they're going to say no. Like, this is not a guessing game. It's not like a 25% chance for them to say yes, no. It's a no. It is a no. If we want this to be a yes, we need more reasons that they want to ally us than reasons they don't want to ally us. Right now, they have 10 reasons to ally us, 42 reasons not to ally us. They have a positive opinion with us, +5. We were just talking about that. So the opinion is positive, but it's not overwhelmingly positive. If we were to improve relations with them, that +5 would go up to a +20 or a +25 or a +30, right? That would be, we would be able to continually boost up that modifier for them wanting an alliance with us. We have a good diplomatic reputation, a different stat. We don't know anything about it, but hey, having a good diplomatic reputation just makes people want to do deals with us. Absolutely great. We have a good reputation across Europe and people know it. That's great. Brandenburg army strength. So our army is a little unappealing. They actually think that we're kind of scrawny right now. Well, we could expand our army. We could get a bigger army. And maybe once we got a bigger army, maybe they would be more willing to ally us. So we could look into production of army units and things like that in the future. Although that would tie into a bunch of other things like economy and things we haven't even talked about, right? But we're just noticing, hey, they're judging our 9,000 troops. They're not impressed with our 9,000 troops. And we could look and see how many Poland has. And Poland might have 20 or 30,000 troops. So we're really not impressing them with only 9,000. And they have a neutral attitude. Again, neutral attitudes are not conducive for alliance building. However, you could see that if they went friendly, if their attitude wasn't neutral and that -20 went away, we wouldn't be that far from getting the alliance here. Just sending a diplomat over there to butter them up a little bit would probably be enough. That could be a goal if we want to ally Poland. We can keep clicking around here. We got Magdeburg has actually rivaled us. There's a sword here and it's a -77. They really despise us. They're our rival. They have chosen to rival us. They have announced to the world that we are their rival and that they will work against us covertly with espionage. They will work against us in acts of war and skirmishes and events and things like that. They'll do whatever they can to mess with us. So this is going to be a bitter enemy, at least from their perspective. We have technically not rivaled them, but they've rivaled us. And we could choose to rival them or we could choose to rival someone else. We just have to look into that. Brunswick has rivaled us as well. So these two have rivaled us against us. They might actually, this is actually telling us that these two nations might actually team up in their joint hatred for us. These two nations might actually team up against us. And individually, you know, Magdeburg is not really that scary. Just, you know, they got 5,000 troops. We got 9,000. They have 2 little provinces here. We have a bunch of provinces. Not that scary. But if they team up with Brunswick, wait a second. Now they have 11,000 troops. And they're about as big as us. So that is interesting. Lüneburg has also rivaled us. Holy cow, if they all team up against us, that could be kind of a block. That could be a wall to our west there. Verden likes us. Hamburg's kind of neutral. Lübeck's actually pretty powerful, to be honest. As small as they are relatively powerful. They're neutral, though. Mecklenburg likes us. Wolgast likes us. Wolgast doesn't look too shrimpy. They don't look bad. The Teutonic Order is neutral. Big country up here on the Baltic. North of Poland. Now let's look at Papa Austria. Austria loves us. Well, Austria is in charge of the entire Holy Roman Empire. And we're talking about a little bit about that before we picked Burgundy. Or, sorry, Brandenburg. I keep saying Burgundy. I apologize, guys. In fact, if we can hit this tab right here to open up the Holy Roman Empire tab. down here in the bottom, just because it shows that the emperor is Frederick III von Habsburg. Austria's crest right here, so Austria is in charge. Now, right now, oh, we're actually an elector. We actually can cast a vote. Right now, we're voting for ourselves. We're voting for ourselves, and Austria's probably going to be upset with the fact that we're not voting for them. We could choose to vote for Austria. We could think about this later. We could just let that ride for a bit. But the truth is, if Austria loves us and they want an alliance with us, signified by their friendly attitude towards us and the plus opinion, we go to oh, there we go. Offer alliance, cha-ching. They want an alliance with us. They want an alliance with us. Austria is very, very powerful. They're they're in charge. They're Papa Austria. They're in charge of the Holy Roman Empire. And actually, being allied with Austria is going to allow them to look the other way when we do wars against these weaker nations. Because what Austria is trying to do is protect the sanctity of the Holy Roman Empire, and the Holy Roman Empire is strongest when it's more decentralized. The more decentralized the Holy Roman Empire is, the stronger it is. And what that basically what we mean by that is the more independent nations that exist within it, right? Frankfurt over here and Nuremberg and so on and so forth. All these tiny little nations. Austria does not want Bohemia to just go and conquer all these little nations. They want these nations to have their own independent sovereignty. And so Austria is going to oppose people who are conquering their neighbors. And Austria is also going to protect against France, against Poland. If Poland attacked us, Austria would swoop in and defend. Even though we're not allied to Austria, Austria will defend anyone that gets attacked from the outside of the empire. If Denmark attacks from the north, Austria will defend, so on and so forth. But if we ally Austria, Austria will actually look the other way when we attack some of these weaker, smaller nations around us in our sort of just immediate surroundings. Austria would give us a pass, basically, to attack Magdeburg. So let's ally Austria. Let's send one of our 2 diplomats to go to Austria. Cha-ching! There we go. Austria has accepted the military alliance. We saw there was a big giant green check mark. We knew they had accepted. Hooray. They have decided to ally us. Now, our diplomat's going to take 5 days to get back home. So he's not able to be doing much there. So he's stuck for a little bit. And we could try to look for more alliances. And you might be asking yourselves, why don't we just ally everybody? Let's just get all the alliances. Well, there is a little bit of a limit there. If we go into our crest in the top left here, we're looking at Austria's diplomatic screen here. But I want to go look at our own diplomatic screen. We have to hit this button down here at the bottom of this tab. Oh, Brandenburg. Now we're in Brandenburg. The other way that we could actually get that very quickly at the beginning of the game is this red banner. It's saying we have too few rivals. That takes us to our own diplomacy tab. And these tabs, if we ever need to find these again, we just click this and all these different tabs here. This really divvies up the game. This literally divvies up the game by all the different aspects of the game. We had our leadership here to see who we are, who we're playing as. I didn't really explain that very well. I just wanted to see if a king, it's saying it's a prince. You know, we have government tabs, we have economy tabs. I'm not teaching any of this. We're just looking at this. We got trade tabs, we got technology tabs, ideas and philosophies, missions. Okay, wait a second. We have missions and ambitions as Brandenburg. This might actually help guide us as to what we should do first. So this will be important to look at. There's decisions and policies, stability. This is a very complicated game, but it's all neatly organized in these different tabs. Religious issues that might arise, stability issues that might arise. This is a very important tab, but it won't be that important for a few years. It'll take a while for this to become relevant, but when it is, this becomes a very important tab. Military tab, all kinds of things. We can imagine estates, internal estates and stuff. Again, not teaching any of this stuff, but you can just see how the different elements of governing our nation are broken into these neat little tabs. And we want to go to our diplomacy tab for 2 reasons. One, we need to figure out who our rivals are going to be. In fact, we can quickly see here, these are the people that have enemied us. Stettin, this tiny little country, has enemied us here. We have Magdeburg, Lüneburg, and Brunswick. And we actually found those guys on our own, independently. We found those guys on our own. But we could pick our own rivals. If we click these, we could probably see, ooh, tons of different options. Tons of different people we could rival here. So that could be interesting to look at. In fact, it's letting us rival Poland, but Poland is way more powerful than us. So I don't know if we want to poke the beast on that. You know what I mean? But we could think about who we're maybe going to be aggressive against and think about who we want to rival. But what I wanted to come here to do was to look at a different thing. This 1 out of 4 right here. Diplomatic relations. We have 1 diplomatic relation out of 4. It says Austrian alliance. Alliance with Austria. we can get 3 more diplomatic relations. That could be royal marriages with countries, that could be military access through countries, that could be trade agreements with countries. Right now, this number will expand as we play the game and over time. But right now it's saying that we want to keep that within 4. If we go over this number, it's totally fine. It'll just cost us a penalty. There'll be a penalty if we're over this number. We'll have to devote more of our diplomatic resources to maintaining more than 4 diplomatic relations. But this is a baseline. When we feel most comfortable is when we have 4 diplomatic relations or less, and therefore it won't strain our country and we won't have to spend any extra penalty to have more than 4. But we can go over 4 if we need to. If we really desperately saw an opportunity diplomatically and we needed to pounce on it, we could do that and go over 4. That's not a big deal. So that's kind of one of the limiters, though, on how many alliances we can get. We got 1 with Austria. And we might start thinking and looking for more. I mean, I don't know. Denmark? Instead of having Denmark be a threat to us, like from, bearing down on us from the north, do we want Denmark to be our buddy? Do we want to attack Denmark eventually? Is that going to be an outlet for us to expand? Poland? I mean, do we want to try to ally Muscovy? They're quite far away. They probably don't care much about us, to be honest. Some of these nations might just be too far away to care. England, France, they might be a little bit too far away and doing their own thing too much. Burgundy and Austria will be at odds with each other. We could actually look at Austria and see who have they rivaled. Austria has rivaled Provence, Savoy, and Ottoman. So we probably don't want to ally any of them or Austria would get angry with us because Austria is announcing to the world that they don't like Ottomans, they don't like Provence, they don't like Savoy. But they're totally fine with Burgundy. So I guess we could technically try to get an alliance on Burgundy. It's possible. Or we could just kind of wait and see. We only have 1 more diplomat right now. And the other thing our diplomats can do that's very important is our diplomats can act as spies. And we can use them covertly in other nations to build up a spy network and fabricate claims and justify war against other nations. We haven't talked about, we're at peace right now. We're not at war. When we unpause the game, we're not just going to be attacking all these nations. No, when you go to war, you declare war on a nation. You fight the war, you end the war, and that's it. You spend most of the game at peace. At least until you get into a good rhythm, until you start to kind of understand the flow of things. More experienced players will probably spend a lot more time at war. But we can think and see, okay, if we want to go to war with someone, it's a preparation. We have to get a justified reason, a claim to go to war. So we can use our diplomat to fabricate that reason for war. We might actually want to take Stettin. We might want to take this land and get to the sea and get a coastal province so that we could start building our own navy. And these little guys are kind of isolated right now. They've rivaled us, but I don't know. I'm assuming that they don't like Wolgast either. Yeah, they don't like Wolgast either. So these guys look relatively alone over here, to be honest. So this might be a good opportunity to build a spy network against them. It looks like the Teutonic Order has some land here that I feel like we wouldn't mind having. That's kind of disconnected from their country. But the Teutonic Order looks pretty tough. They look pretty big and pretty tough, but Poland will also bear down on them as well. So we could sort of piggyback off the fact that Poland's going to come up and fight the Teutonic Order most likely. And if we know our history really well, then we can actually anticipate some of these things to happen, because there is an element of guidance from history, but we'll see that everything will definitely evolve ahistorically as we actually play the game. Our world will evolve uniquely to anybody else's world. And there's so many things to talk about, it's kind of insane. So we do definitely want to get some rivals here. We want to get some rivals, and I think we want Stettin to be a rival for sure. For sure. They rivaled us, we want to rival them. But I feel like Mecklenburg is just asking for it here, a weaker nation right there. But I'm actually kind of wondering, what's the deal with Anhalt here? They seem a lot weaker. They look a lot weaker right there, because if we could sneak in there and take that land, that seems like it'd be a little bit smarter. Just sort of, but they might be too weak to allow us. Yeah, they're too weak to even allow us to rival them. Well, we could just rival Mecklenburg and Lüneburg. They've already rivaled us, so there's no hope of making a positive diplomatic interaction with them. Oh, I could see us actually trying to get the alliance with Saxony too. We talked about that a little bit, although Saxony might be someone we want to expand into eventually as well. But maybe temporarily it's an alliance, and then we turn that alliance into a rivalry later in the game, generations later, right? Generations later. Let's do Magdeburg. I apologize. I'm certainly not going to be pronouncing all these right. And Lüneburg. Let's rival those. And by rivaling these countries, we have announced to the world, hey, these are rivals, and that'll make it even easier to justify war against these guys. Everybody's going to be expecting us to go to war with Stettin. Stettin's going to be expecting us to go to war with them, right? Like, this just announces to the world, hey, we got bad beef here, bad blood here, and we're going to be going to war, nothing to see here. And people, other people, because when we go to war, it's important. It's a diplomatic action. When we go to war, Bohemia is going to be like, wait a second, is that justified? Are you sure you're going to war? Is that a smart thing? You're going to destabilize the region. Like, other countries care who's at war with each other, even if they're not involved. And they will actually have, it will hurt our diplomatic relations with other countries if we're seen as a warmonger, right? So it's important that we have valid reasons to attack nations. And one of the reasons, and it'll be easier to build up those reasons for attack if we're rivaled with them. If we're rivaled up here, Bohemia is just going to be like, yeah, whatever, that just makes sense. They're just getting out some, you know, they're just hashing it out. So we've got some rivals. Let's actually take a look at these missions, because I feel like these missions, and we are playing with all the DLCs as a reminder. And Brandenburg, I super apologize, guys. Brandenburg has tons of insane missions. Brandenburg has all kinds of very special, unique missions with the Emperor DLC. So if you don't have Emperor DLC, this will look a little bit different, but we can see here. Okay, own core on Neumark and Dromberg. So they want us to own these provinces here. Okay, so we have a goal to take those ones from the Teutonic Order. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's an event. I think there's an event that will actually help us take these without going to war. I can't remember how that works exactly. Ansbach, owned by Burgundy. Wait, what? By Brandenburg, I apologize, guys. The Ansbach succession? No legal heir? We could try to get an alliance or royal marriage with them. That'll give us free permanent claims in this area. That's kind of interesting. But that's kind of far away from her. That's kind of far away from our country. We might not work on that right away, to be honest. Owned 15 provinces with the Northern Germany in the Northern Germany area. So we got a lot of options for this, but okay. Just take a show of strength. So we just need to get bigger. And then we'll get permanent claims on a lot of the rest of the area. Okay, there we go. What other missions do we have? Global dominance. This looks like a trade thing. Trade power in the Saxony area. We'll work on that in a bit. If we're the defender of the Catholic faith, we'll get a thing there. And some of this stuff we might not know really how to do this stuff. At least 2 electors backing. Okay, so this is actually helping us become the emperor to supersede Austria. But I think right now our ambitions are not quite that grand. But it does look like we have missions to become the emperor of the HRE. There's an election after all, and we could try to go that route. In fact, Saxony votes. If we were allied to Saxony, they might vote for us. Bohemia votes too. Bohemia doesn't usually like to vote for Austria because they're usually rivals with each other. Although they didn't rival each other this game, which is odd. Maybe Bohemia is a little too weak to rival Austria. That might be the case. A professional army, have at least 50% army professionalism. Okay, that's we can drill our troops and increase our army's professionalism. We start at 0%, so that's going to be a little bit later on. But yes, the Prussian army is of course historic for its discipline and amazing skill in battle and tactics and all kinds of things. Alrighty, guys. I think for the most part, the last thing I think I want to mention here that's actually pretty important that we haven't had to look at because it's so clear where our country is. But if it's kind of like, where is our country, you know? If we're ever kind of wondering, this diplomatic tab will highlight it very nicely. In fact, it shows the Austria alliance. So it shows how nations are related to each other, both positively and negatively. If we're at war, we could use this diplomatic tab to see who we're at war with. These are just map modes. These are purely just ways to see the world at a glance. The political map mode is the one we need to go back to so that we can see everything. Sort of the main way of playing the game is in political map mode. And then you can go to the trade map mode to see how the world is broken up into different trade regions. We haven't talked about trade at all. Next episode, maybe. Diplomatic map mode, these are really important ones. Diplomatic and political. You almost never click on some of these other ones, but some of these other ones are very situational. Like here we could see where the castles are throughout Europe. Lots of castles in Europe. We could see a religious map mode. We can see that most of it is harmonized as Catholic faith, so there's not going to be too much religious strife or conflict for us in the HRE, at least not until, 100 years from now. Simple terrain map mode, we can see the different terrains. This matters tactically in battle, whether you're fighting in hills or woods or plains or whatever. Different tactical aspects to battles fought in different terrains. We'll talk about in the future, but basically these are just map modes. So I just want to make sure that we do know how to go to the diplomatic map mode. We can click on Austria and see, okay, they got nothing really going on. They've just allied us. The game hasn't started yet, right? We haven't unpaused the game. So a lot of these nations won't have allies with anybody. Although it looks like Hungary has a personal union over Croatia. Aragon has a personal union over Naples. Burgundy has personal unions over Flanders, Brabant, and Holland. They have a vassalage over Nevers. If we click on Saxony, we can see, oh, here's their personal union over Thuringia. If we click on Denmark, Denmark actually has a vassal over Holstein, and they also have personal unions over Norway and Sweden. We can just hover over to see this. Sweden is ruled by us in a personal union. By us as in by Denmark, the nation we selected. Norway is ruled by us in a personal union. Holstein is considered to be, Holstein is our vassal. Again, from the Danes' perspective there. And so that's a very, very useful map mode for detecting, like if people are at war, it's like Bohemia's at war, but who are they at war with? You go here, you check it out, you'll see a bunch of red, and that'll tell you who's at war. Oh, it looks like actually Bohemia has some subjects, vassal, they have a couple vassals. So it's good to know just to kind of click on our neighbors here and be like, who's got what, Who's actually already sort of bound and related. Okay, Lübeck's got, what is this? Lübeck's got something going on. Trade League. Lübeck is in a trade league with Hamburg, Bremen, and Oldenburg, and that will expand. So Lübeck is actually a merchant republic that's basically leading a trade league. Oh, they got Riga in there too. Interesting. So that's good to know. So if we attack Lübeck, we'd actually be attacking Lübeck plus Bremen plus Hamburg plus Oldenburg plus Riga. So all those nations would defend each other. They have like a defensive alliance basically in a trade league, and they're getting some trade benefits for cooperating with each other. But guys, that is essentially a big look at the diplomacy, the initial diplomacy. But really what we did is we just said we're Brandenburg. Sorry. Holy cow, guys. We are Brandenburg. And we are like, who are we maybe going to be aggressive to? Who are we going to be friendly to? Where are we going to want to expand initially? We're definitely going to want to expand into Stettin, I believe. In fact, what do we get for this? Yeah, so what we actually, if we could take these two provinces, we'll actually be rewarded. We'll be rewarded with free claims, justification for war over this northern Pomeranian area. So it could be that we want to prioritize Neumark first and take this, and then that will chain in mission-wise. That'll chain in to the Pomeranian succession, which is kind of interesting. So that could be something we'd want to do. So we're kind of thinking that most of our conquesting is going to be here. In the next episode, we will actually think about what that means to prepare for that. How many troops does the Teutonic Order have? Can we attack them? Can we not attack them? How do we, how do we actually send the spy into the Teutonic Order in order to get the justification for war against them? How do we build more troops if we need to build more troops? What does our economy look like? Can we even afford more troops, right? These are all questions we're going to be asking in future episodes. With all the DLCs active, this is going to be a little bit of a thick dive, a deep dive into EU4 for sure. And it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be a little bit slow going, but it's going to be a little bit tricky as well. But thanks everybody for being here. You guys are the crazy ones if you're here with all the DLCs trying to learn how to play the game, and also here at the end of the video listening to the outro. But thanks guys for being here. If you guys have questions, please ask in the comments. But of course, there's a lot of things we have not discussed yet. But if there's anything we did touch on but it didn't make sense, questions are great. I'll make sure to respond to all the questions and all the comments in the comment section. We'll be back in next episode, guys. Thanks everybody for being here. See you guys in the next one.